Greetings, everyone. Welcome back to Train Tuesday. So glad to have you on board. I am Jim with Athearn, and here we are. December is upon us. Hard to believe that it's December and the year is winding down, but we got some great announcements. If you missed them at Train Fest, we're going to talk about one of those big announcements tonight on Train Tuesday. Who is joining me on the live? I see Derek, Jason, Elko Steam, David, Delta 9, Train Jack 16, and Anthony, Model Railroader, Cole, Ronald, just to name a few. So thank you for joining us. If you are joining us live, thanks for taking a little bit of your time out tonight to watch Train Tuesday. If you're catching us up later on YouTube, do us a favor. If you like the content that you're seeing on a weekly basis, like and subscribe, hit the notification bell. That way you're notified every time a new video like this drops into the YouTube channel. And leave a comment. Now, I will admit, all the new announcement videos that dropped while I was gone at Train Fest, over Thanksgiving weekend, I'm still trying to get caught up on a lot of those comments, but drop a comment and I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. So we're going to be talking about the all-new Athearn Genesis EMD SD60. And if you were a modeler of the 1980s into the early 1990s, you're probably going to be a fan of this Spartan cab powerhouse. We're also going to be talking about some freight cars in Genesis. But before we get started, let's do one more round of shout outs to see who's joining us. We have just at 100 people joining us live. I see Sid joined us. Benjamin is here. Jason is here from Vermont. Ronald, Delta, Trackside Mike, Harold, and many, many more. Thank you for joining us. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with some model train goodness. So we're going to be talking about the EMD SD60. Now, either I'm dating myself or I'm starting to feel really old, but I remember when this locomotive was introduced. It wasn't that long ago for me. Now, the SD60 was a microprocessor-controlled 6-axle locomotive utilizing a 16-cylinder turbocharged EMD 710 prime mover. Now, this would produce over 100,000 pounds of tractive effort at minimum continuous speed. This model is utilized primarily in the over-the-road applications. However, it can also be used in large industrial loading and unloading facilities, namely where rail curvature is not an issue. Now, riding on 40-inch diameter wheels, the SD60 measures 71 feet 2 inches long. That's the same as the previous SD50 that was introduced prior. Now, the SD60 was ordered by numerous roads for heavy haul service, Chicago and Northwestern. After ordering about 35 SD50s, they returned to EMD to order 55 SD60s to bolster its coal service. Conrail ordered 25 with the standard cab before switching over to the SD60i. Kansas City Southern was pretty satisfied with their 10 SD50s, so it came back to EMD with an order of 46 units, and Norfolk Southern and Union Pacific were big buyers of the SD60, taking 151 and 85 units respectively. The 100-unit lease fleet of Oakway SD60s was also a significant group. Overall, the SD60 model was a success for EMD, but it came a little bit too late in the game to unseat General Electric as the #1 locomotive builder in the U.S. Now, pictured here is Burlington Northern 8300. It's in Fort Worth, Texas on August 13th, 1986. Now, unfortunately, the photographer of this particular photo is unknown. However, this photo and other photos that I'll be showing with you tonight are all part of the Kevin U. Daily collection. With that being said, I want to do a shout out to Tony Cook and thank Tony and Kevin U. Daily for graciously allowing us to use these photos for the SD60. So there you have it. This is the first run of the Athearn Genesis SD60, and we're going to talk about some of those roads. Now, if you've got questions from the announcement from last week or anything that we're going to discuss tonight, feel free to save those questions for after the presentation. That way I can see them, and I'll answer as many as I can before going on to the next subject. So let's talk about what we're going to be running in our initial run of the SD60. Well, probably no surprise, we're going to be doing Burlington Northern. Now, Burlington Northern had three units, 8300, 8301, and 8302. They were demonstrator units from EMD. Now, albeit they were painted in full BN colors, they were eventually returned to EMD, but there are pictures, and I'll probably share those on social media later. They actually ran around in the Cascade green paint and tiger stripes, but they were pretty much patched out. They ran like this for a number of years, and then they were subsequently painted in the familiar blue and white Oakway paint scheme. Now, as you can see, we're going to offer all three road numbers, 8300, 8301, and 8302. Features and details that are specific for the Burlington Northern units that you see presently include, they're all going to have an 88-inch nose. They are going to have clear class lights, rear class lights also in the back, Western coolant beacon, nose-mounted brake ratchet, HTC trucks with Hyatt bearings. These are going to have the T-type jacking pads, and these will also have a 4,500-gallon fuel tank with seam and dual fillers. Those are all specific to the Burlington Northern units. Now, I've got some other examples of these Burlington Northern units when they were new, primarily from 1985 and 1987. The first picture, whew, if you're not cold, this picture will make you feel cold. This is kind of what Illinois looks like right now, at least where I'm at. This is Burlington Northern 8301, and it's in Alliance, Nebraska. This is November of 1985. So not, to me, not that long ago. For some of you, many, many years ago. Again, this is an unknown photographer, so I can't give photo credit for it other than it's from the Kevin U. Daly collection. Likewise, let's see what it looked like in Montana in 1987. Now here's 8302. That weather looks a little bit better. 8302 is sitting at Laurel, Montana. This is back in June of 1987. The photographer, and I'll probably butcher this and hear this in the comments, but I'm going to give it a college try, D.L. Zeuschel, and again, part of Kevin U. Daly's collection. Great picture, great locomotive, albeit they didn't last long in this paint scheme. Moving on to our next one, and this is one that was really well received when we introduced this model at Trainfest, and that was Soo Line. A lot of folks were asking for Soo Line. In fact, when we talked about the SD50 about 7 months ago, a lot of folks are saying, boy, if you ever do the SD60 in Genesis, man, I really hope you do it in Soo Line. And that's what we're doing. We're doing Soo Line 1987. So Ditchlight era fans, if you're a Soo Line fan, not this run. I can tell you though, in subsequent runs, we'll probably do the same paint scheme, reflecting a different later date with ditch lights. However, for the initial run, we're going to do 1987. And Soo Line's 6000 to 6041 were the final standard cab units delivered new to the road. This was also the last delivery that would wear the red and white hockey stick scheme, because if you remember, right after this, they went to that candy apple red paint scheme. Now we're going to offer 3 different road numbers for this initial run: 6005, 6012, and 6019. These will all have an 88-inch nose. They will also have clear class lights both front and rear. They'll also be equipped with a 4,500-gallon fuel tank without seam, Nathan M3 horns, nose-mounted brake wheel. This has the square type jacking pads, xenon beacon with bracket, which is just offset and right side mounted, spare knuckles on the rear pilot, which is a Soo Line specific detail, HTC trucks with Timken bearings, and of course an all-weather window located on the right-hand side. So these are basically what I would call factory fresh locomotives as they appeared when they were delivered to the Soo Line. Now, I do have a picture of one of these guys in the wild back in the day. See, there really were Soo Line locomotives without ditch lights at one time. Don't worry, ditch light guys, you're going to get your run in the future. But just to prove a point, here's 6019 at Noche Yard in Kansas City, Missouri, back in 1988. Of course, that's before the FRA mandate of ditch lights. This is a Mark Hall photo, and you can just tell, you can almost just smell the paint in this picture. Really looking nice, almost like a factory photo. Coming up next, we've got some armor yellow for you. We've got 3 road numbers for Union Pacific. Now, this is 1986. So UP 6000 to 6084. These units were built from February to June of 1986. They had an operating weight of 390,000 pounds, and they remained in this number series right up until 1999. Again, we've got 6014, 6035, and 6054 rounding out this month for Union Pacific. All of these locomotives are going to have their 88-inch nose with the clear class lights, rear class lights, of course. You're going to have Leslie S3L horns, nose-mounted brake wheel, square-type jacking pads, spare knuckle bracket on each side frame. These will be equipped with a 4,500-gallon fuel tank without seams, and HTC trucks with Timken bearings. Now, fortunately, Tony was able to find 3 pictures of the 3 units in about this same era. They're all from 1986, so that means they are factory fresh in these pictures. We're going to start with 6014. 6014 is spotted in Dalton, Illinois. This is back in April 1986. So basically brand new. This photo was captured by Ronald A. Plazota. Hopefully I pronounced that name correctly. Beautiful picture. Again, looks like a factory picture. Here is 6035. This is another one of the units that we are offering. 6035 is seen sitting at Armstrong Yard in Kansas City. And this is in August of 1986. This is a Mark Hall photo. So again, August of 1986, these are virtually brand new. The next picture, really interesting. This, of course, is 6054, the 3rd unit that we're actually offering. This is as it appeared in August 23rd, 1986. 6054 is seen here at Family Days Train in Portola, California, which is pretty cool. Photographer unknown, unfortunately, but they took a really good picture kind of capturing that day's event. And again, August of 1986. So again, these things were virtually brand new. East Coast guys, we didn't disappoint you this time. We do have Conrail. Now, Conrail, again, is based on as they appeared in 1989. So again, pretty much factory fresh. No ditch lights on these. One of the pictures I do have of one of these units is later from the 90s, so it does have ditch lights, but I do want to tell you that these are factory fresh, and they do not have the ditch lights because they depict Conrail units as they appeared in 1989. Now, Conrail guys, you're known for having some unique spotting features, and the tall battery box, the countersunk radiator fans, the 3 grab irons on the engineer side of the nose, and of course the FRA approved class lights are all unique to Conrail SD60s. They were also the first Conrail units to feature white number boards. Remember, before this, Conrail just had a simple black number board with white numbers. These guys started the trend of having the white number boards with the black trends. So like Union Pacific guys kind of go with the red sill versus yellow sill. Some Conrail guys, they kind of use the number boards as a depicting fine line of where they want to model. Now, we're offering 3 different Conrail locomotives in this run: 6843, 6855, and 6862. Now, all of these models, again, going back to as they appeared in 1989, so virtually factory fresh, 88-inch nose with red marker lights. Before I go on, I know you Conrail guys are asking, you're going to put marker lights on these locomotives, but they're not the same marker lights that are used on the Union Pacific or the Soo Line. You're correct. If you look carefully at Conrail marker lights, they almost have a bug eye shape. They're pointed forward. If you look at them, they have a very defined look to them. They're not off to the side, but they're actually facing straight ahead. Yes, we do have the tooling for that. Yes, I've confirmed that. They will look as they did in real life. You're also going to have the rear class lights with the red lens per the prototype, Nathan K5 LA horns, nose-mounted brake wheel, square type jacking pads, spare knuckles on the rear pilot, bell with guard, of course, the signal box, 4,500 gallon fuel tank without seam, and HTC trucks with Timken bearings. Pretty excited about these, being kind of a Conrail guy. So Conrail guys that were at TrainFest were really excited to see us announce these. So if you're a Conrail guy, you're going to want to get one or more of these on pre-order with your dealer. Now I've got one picture of a Conrail, and it's one that we opened the, I believe, our new announcements video with. This is Conrail 6843 and 3315. They're leading an AutoTrack train through Guderland, New York. New Yorkers, correct me, I'm sure I butchered that a little bit. On March 16th, 1995, hence the ditch lights. Keep in mind, ours are 1989. There's no ditch lights in this run. Now, this was a John Bartley photo, and it's also part of the Kevin U. Daly collection. Really cool picture, and really excited about offering these Conrails for you guys. So far, everything that we've discussed tonight has been what I call factory fresh or new from LaGrange. Well, these are going to be different. These are, Canadian National. These Canadian Nationals are going to span 2012 to 2014. Now, a little bit of background on these locomotives. In the early 2010s, Canadian National acquired close to 100 of those former Oakway Leasing SD60 units. The units were rewired and they were repaired as needed, and then they received Canadian National's web address paint scheme. If you are a fan of rail fanning back in the 2012, 2014, even earlier, you probably remember the web address. You don't see it much anymore. Well, we're going to be offering this era. We're going to have 3 road numbers, 5422, 5431, and 5460. Now, features that are specific, and if you look carefully, you'll see that all 3 units have some minor differences in detail. Well, that's because it's later in the SD60's life. Things have been taken away. But pretty much strictly speaking, for Canadian National units, they're all going to have an 88-inch nose with blanked class lights. So the class lights, not there. Those have been blanked over because at this point, most railroads were not using them. Same with the rear class lights. Those have been blanked out. Beacon bracket only, Nathan K3 LA horn, nose-mounted brake wheel. These are going to have the square type jacking pads, waste retention tank, air dryer, rectangular type toilet drain valve, spare knuckles on the rear pilot, front and rear pilot. This is a Canadian National specific detail. Something else that's really cool about these will have electronic fuel gauges, the 4,500 gallon fuel tank without seam, and HTC trucks with Timken bearings. Ditch light guys, these will have ditch lights. They're mounted on the anti-climber, both the front and the rear. So there you have it. We got some ditch lights for you, ditch light era guys. Now, let's see if we've got a few pictures of these in their natural habitat. Here's a great picture. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a date on this, but judging on the quality of paint on this locomotive, I'm going to guess at least 2012 to 2014. This thing looks brand new. This is 5460. It's parked at Centralia, Illinois, and this is a Paul Wester picture. Great picture. Next, we've got 5422, just up the road a bit, parked in Wisconsin Rapids, Wisconsin. Another one by Paul. And again, I don't have a date on these, but judging on the appearance, I'd say these had just come out of the shop. So Canadian National guys, we've got 3 locomotives for you to choose from. Norfolk Southern, we did not forget you. These are Norfolk Southern. Of course, they were one of the railroads that ordered quite a few of these. This is 1985 era, so these are not modern at any stretch. This is one of the first orders of SD60s. Again, we're going back to 1985. Now, Norfolk Southern eventually rostered over 200 SD60 units. They were used system-wide on all types of trains. Now, interestingly enough, the SD60 rebuild program in the early 2010s extended their lives considerably. Now, if you're following me on Facebook, you probably saw a couple of weeks ago, I posted a picture of an SD60E Where I'm at in central Illinois, I'm not far from the former Wabash line, and SD60s are very common on that line. So I catch them occasionally. So thanks to that SD60 E program, we still get to see a lot of these, albeit with a very interesting cab. We're going to be offering these, however, as they appeared in 1985. We've got 3 road numbers to choose from: 6569, 6581, and 6602. Now, all 3 of these are going to have the 88-inch nose with clear class lights, rear lights as well, Nathan P135 R24 horns, nose-mounted brake wheel, T-type jacking pads, air dryer, dual fuel gauges, which is a Norfolk Southern specific detail, and HTC trucks with Hyatt bearings. Now I can only find, or Tony can only find, one picture of one of the locomotives that we're offering, and that is 6668. Now, I apologize, that is a road number we are not offering, but it's within the same group, so I figured I'd throw it up there for you. This was taken in Stevenson, Alabama back in October of 1997. This is another John Geikie, I think is how you pronounce the name, who took this photo back then. Much later in life than what we're offering, because again, these are 1985 models that we're offering. This picture was from 1997. So you see those ditch lights, you see some other subtle differences. So with all of that being said, let's talk about the new model. We're going to go back to some eye candy for you. I'm going to go back to that Conrail picture. And let's talk about the details of this brand new model. This is a brand new model. Now, I had folks ask me at the show at TrainFest, hey, isn't this just a warmed up, ready to roll SD60? And no, it's not. It is completely different from the ground up. One of the things that you're going to notice right away is these are going to have new bodies with correct door placement and weld marks. They're also going to have early or late handrail placement. Going to the trucks, you're going to have HTC or Flexicoil trucks with Hyatt or animated Timken bearings. Also, you're going to have correct dynamic brake intake and exhaust grill placement. You'll also have single or dual conduit fans. Another important feature, rounded or blunt anti-climbers with or without MU cutouts. 4,000 or 4,500 gallon fuel tanks with fuel fillers, fuel gauges, and breather pipes. You'll also have correct gauge and filler placement, again, based on the prototype. Operating class lights were based on the prototype. So let me stress to you, locomotives like the Conrails, the Soo Line, those locomotives that actually had classification lights from the factory, those will function. If you have the Canadian National ones, they don't have class lights anymore because by then most railroads weren't using them. So they will not function on the Canadian National. So anytime that we have class lights on a model and we say that they have working class lights, it's based on the prototype. So take a look. You'll see, again, the Canadian Nationals, they were plated over. They're not going to function. All of the locomotives, however, will have operating number boards. Some other things that we've added to this, we've got coupler cut levers, MU hoses, train line hoses, see-through windows, cab interior, which is really cool. I see a lot of you guys out there on Instagram and Facebook and other forms of social media doing some great jobs of painting, weathering, detailing, adding crews to the cabs. Well, here's your chance. You can do this with the SD60 as well. You're also going to have walkway tread, windshield wipers, lift rings, wire grab irons, sander lines, so much more. For complete details, go on over to athearn.com and select the new announcements tab and check out the SD60 PDF, and complete details are there. Now, of course, these are being offered 2 different ways. You have the Tsunami 2 equipped version with DCC and sound, or you can go the DCC ready route, and those will feature the quick plug and play technology, the 21-pin NEM connector, so you can use the sound decoder of your choice. So there you have it. SD60s, if you were a fan of the 80s into the 90s, we heard you. Believe it or not, our product suggestion email for the last few years has been overloaded with people asking us to bring the SD60 into the Genesis line. And so when we did the SD50, since there's a lot of similarities between the SD50 and the SD60, we figured we might as well bring the SD60 to the Genesis line as well. So already this past year, we've offered 2 brand new Genesis locomotives for you, and they weren't modern and they weren't transition era. We tried to listen to you guys that are modeling the 1980s and into the 90s. So before we go into the next item, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the comments and see if anybody's got any questions. Oh, let's see. Frieden says, Jim, will EMD3 come with radial trucks when you release it like the ready-to-roll versions came with? I would say there's a possibility. If we do that, I would think so. We'd have to because it's Genesis. We're going to have to follow the prototype there. And I'm not sure the extent of tooling that we did on that, but I know product development spent a lot of time. Jason says, Jim, September 1990 issue of Car and Driver, the price of the SD60 was $1.4 million a unit. Imagine what it would be now. And what would the APR financing be on that? And how many months would you have to finance that? It'd be a lot more than 84 months, I can tell you that. Let's see what else we have. Cole Miller says, Jim, I have a question. Okay, fire away while you've got my attention. Get on your keyboard, Cole. Type that out. Randall says, as a BN Frisco guy, I'm very happy to see the Burlington Northern in the initial release of the SD60. Thank you, Randall. You know, it's funny because the Burlington Northern in this group has been rather divisive. There have been some people that said, why did you do the Burlington Northern when you could have done Oakway, which had so many of these? And of course, if you're like me and remember rail fanning in the 90s, especially in the Northeast, you saw those Oakway SD60s all over the place. Well, the reason being is we want to offer the initial runs as they appeared from the factory. We wanted to get those out first. And believe it or not, we had a lot of requests for those Burlington Northern Tiger Stripes. And we want to keep the Oakways for the next run. Will it be the actual next run? I don't know, but I can tell you it will be in a future run. Cole says on a completely different subject, he says, will there be a possibility of you guys releasing UP 844? Eventually, yes. Yeah. Yes, more Prime for Grime, please. You're going to have some tonight. Actually, I've got 2 models we're going to talk about in Prime for Grime. Let's see what else we've got. So Mono Railroader says, I see the SD60s will come with the grab irons on the snow plows. I got some older Athearn Genesis models specifically, but without the grab irons on the snow plows. Keep in mind, since it's Genesis, it's based on the prototype. So not all plows are going to have those grab irons. These are based on the actual prototype. And in many cases, most of the cases in this run, these are initial locomotives as they were delivered to their owners. So as they appeared on that date that we have, that's exactly how they're going to appear. Casey G. Rail Gilbert, Jim, does the NS locomotives have flashing ditch lights? No, because in 1985, we didn't have ditch lights on locomotives. At least Norfolk Southern didn't. Maybe some of the Canadians did. No, they will not. Maybe in future releases, we will. And again, something to remember too is anytime you see a Genesis locomotive that's Norfolk Southern with ditch lights, since Norfolk Southern does have the wigwags or the alternating flashing ditch lights when the horn is depressed, so will the model. So just remember, if it's Genesis, it's going to be true to the prototype in both sound, detail, and lights. Let's see. So yeah, in case you missed it, Dave is bringing it back up again. A reason why being so divisive. BN only had 3. We're offering all 3. 8300, 8301, and 8302. Oakway had 155, if my memory serves correctly. Don't worry, we're going to do those eventually. But the BN guys were relentless. So we wanted to offer those. Brian Wilkinson wants to know, Jim, will you be at the train show in Novi, Michigan? If so, will the SD60s be on display? Boy, there's a lot of good things I could say there. Yes, I'm going to be in Novi next summer for the NMRA show. It is in the works. Will I have SD60 samples by then? I'd really like to. I'd really like to have SD50 and 60. However, that's up to product development. Product development is squirreling away and working endless hours to get projects done. So we'll see what happens. I try to bring the newest and the best of every show I go to. Let's see. Any other? I'm going to go back a little bit, see if there are any questions from when I was doing the presentation. Glenn says he's really impressed trying to figure out if I want to order a CN or an Illinois Central one. There you go. Well, we all know what happened to Illinois Central, even though they still are called Illinois Central on paper. Big Blue is awesome. I tend to agree. Harold is in for the Soo Line. Yeah, that was another one. They had a lot of requests. Let's see. So here is a comment from Grant. Says you'll sell a lot of the Norfolk Southern SD60s when you guys do them with ditch lights, as there are a lot of us 90s and knots NS modelers that have been waiting a long time for a proper 60. You won't have to wait too much longer. Yeah, we keep in mind when we did the same thing with the SD50. We try to do Canadian National as an outlier, but we try to do for that first run pretty much as they went to their original owners. So keeping it in the 80s. But don't worry, the tooling is there. So it's just a matter of time. And Norfolk Southern is probably one of our best sellers. So I don't think you have to wait too long. Anthony says, yeah, I'm picking up Norfolk Southern too. All right. Going to go down and see there was a few new comments. Don't worry about your English, Martin. I think I know what you're saying. You want to know more via rail. We did some P42s. We didn't make any Renaissance European passenger cars. Well, I can't say. I never say never. There's a possibility we would. We'd have to look into it because we do have a strong market over in Europe. So I don't know. It's a possibility. Last question on the SD60 is coming from Nathan. You guys do Conrail SD50 or 60 with ditch lights in the future? Yeah, we probably will. Probably will. We're definitely going to be doing SD50s because you Conrail guys, me included, said, "Hey, what's up? There's no Conrail in this initial release, so don't worry. We hear you." All right, thanks for those questions. Some really good questions. Let's go on to our freight car for the night, and then we'll do some general questions and let you get back to some modeling. So we're going to be talking about an old favorite here. This is the Athearn Genesis HO scale 50-foot PC&F 6-foot and 8-foot Youngstown plug door boxcar. Say that 5 times fast. So let's go back in history a little bit to the 1960s. And this is where insulated boxcars had started to become more and more common on most railroads. Now, this type of car was useful for hauling canned goods or any type of commodity that needed to be protected from temperature extremes. Now, the model that we're going to talk about tonight is a Pacific car and foundry, and it features different side panel construction and door types per the prototype. So they're not all just one boxcar with different paint schemes. The cars also feature a detailed cushion underframe and full brake rigging because they are Athearn Genesis. Now, the car that you see on your screen right now, this is Southern Pacific car number 694507. This is from a previous release, but it gives you an idea of what the car looks like. I'm going to show you what roads and numbers we're going to be doing for this release. But if you do fancy this car and you want to add it to your collection, it might be a little bit harder, but the item number for this car is ATHG 73014. Again, item number on the car that's pictured on your screen right now is ATHG 73014. Now let's talk about the cars that are open for pre-order until the end of this month. Starting at the top of your screen, we're going to the 1970s. This is Southern Pacific. These are the Hydra cushion cars that were popular in the 1970s. We're going to do 3 different road numbers of this particular car. The car that you see on your screen now is road number 697293. Additionally, we'll offer 2 other single cars, 697444 and 697485. Taking Southern Pacific and going into the 1980s, we've got the cushion cars seen on your middle of your screen. This is car number 698282. Additionally, we're going to offer 2 other cars, 698329 and 698488. 90s modelers, we heard you. Here's the Golden West Service cars. These are 1990s era cars. Reporting marks on Golden West Service was GVSR. The car that's seen on your screen presently is 750060. Additionally, we'll offer 2 cars, 750073 and 750096. We've also got some cotton belt to offer you. This is a 1983 car. This is the cotton belt version of the cushion car. We're going to do 3 road numbers with this as well. The one that you see on your screen presently is 58009. And we're also going to do 2 other single cars, 58038 and 58045. Now, someone mentioned earlier in the program, bring on more Prime for Grime. We love doing Prime for Grime because it's actually one of our best-selling models. And who here doesn't like to have Prime for Grime? It just makes the weathering process that much easier and more realistic. We're going to offer 2 for you in this run. The first that you see here in the middle of your screen is a Prime for Grime Golden West Service, and it's been patched for cotton belt. This is appropriate for late 2000s era. The road number on this is 27430. Of course, since it's been patched out to a new owner, which is the cotton belt, its reporting marks are now SSW. Likewise, the one that's on the bottom of your screen. Same thing, Prime for Grime, Golden West Service. This one has been patched for Southern Pacific, and this too is a late 2000s car. This one will have reporting marks SP, and the car number will be 698395. Now let's talk about the details. If you're not familiar with these cars, let's give you an in-depth review on the details of these cars using our previous release as an example. So these are all going to have separate wire form grab irons, etched metal coupler platforms, and or etched metal roof lock where appropriate. Since they are Genesis, they do include a full underframe detail, which includes the air brake reservoir, the control valve, and brake cylinder with the appropriate plumbing and brake rod details. These have separately applied wire grab irons wherever applicable, and the trucks do have animated rotating bearing caps. These also include coupler lift bars, train line hoses, brake hoses, and hardware. Now, of course, since these are Genesis, they are accurately painted and printed for prototype realism. Now, minimum radius on these, technically 18 inches. However, our product developers recommend a radius no less than 22 inches. So you can run them on 18 inches. However, remember, these are very prototypical cars. They just look better on a 22-inch radius. Most model railroaders, either with a club or their home layout, can easily have these navigate their layout. Smaller layouts, you know, the 4x8, it might be kind of tight. If you've got a shelf layout, and it's just point to point, you don't have to worry about it. So there you have it. We've talked about the SD60 as well as these PC&F cars. You have until December 27th, 2024 to put those pre-orders in with your dealer. So whether your dealer is a brick and mortar or it's somebody that you like to use online, give them a call, send them an email, and pre-order either the SD60 or the PC&F cars, or maybe both. So with that, let's see what kind of questions you folks have tonight. Some modeling. Oh, Martin says, budget and fun-wise, will you make any build your car self kits? Really like to challenge myself and assemble model kits. Well, we do actually have a model kit right now where we have a 60-foot Canadian tire container that's undecorated. So you got to paint it and you got to build it. All the detail parts are there. Also, any of our undecorated locomotives that we're currently offering, those are essentially a kit. They include all of the detail parts, all the different noses, all the different fans. There's a bunch of detail parts. Currently, we have in stock and at dealers, we have SW1500s that are undecorated. And there's two types too. There's an SP version and a non-SP version. We also have an ST45T-2 and undecorated. And just in stock this past week, right after Train Fest, we found out that the SD40s have delivered to dealers, and we're also offering that as an undecorated model. That comes with all of the detail parts you need to make the model of your choice. So we do technically still offer some kits, not as much as we used to, because most folks have a budget that is more of time versus money, and they want to work on their layout, not their cars. So we try to please everybody as much as we can. We know we can't do it all the time, but we listen. We try to implement what you guys say. Dan, I think I kind of, in a roundabout way, answered your question. We tried to do some undecorated boxcars in the past, and they didn't really do that well, unfortunately. However, we did go out on a limb, and we've also got some F units that are going to be coming in, the Roundhouse F units, both single and dual headlight versions. Those are coming in undecorated. So those will be coming in, I think, before the end of the year, if not the very beginning of January. Let's see what else we've got. Wayne wants to know, do you have any idea if you're going to do lease and short line railroads on the SD60s? Oh yeah, we definitely will. When we're going to do them though, we've got a lot to choose from, just like the SD50s. We'll sit down and we'll look at our next runs, and we'll also compare to see what suggestions we get through our product suggestion email. That being said, if there's a road that you'd like to see in a future SD60 release, please, by all means, send us an email. Send us an email at athearn-productsuggestions@athearn.com. Again, that address is athearn-productsuggestions, all one word, at athearn.com. Now that goes straight to product development. Product development will not answer right away. They will basically just use it as a data point. They just collect data that way. When it comes time for the product development crew to do their thing and come up with the next run, they're going to take a look at all of the people that requested SD60 roads or even arrows. So all you Norfolk Southern guys that want ditch lights, if the product development team sees a large increase of requests for that, they're going to say, you know what, second run, we need to do that. So by all means, send us an email. Let's see what else we've got. Randall says, I saw you guys are bringing back the OG ready to roll AC 4400 CW. That was great to see. Also gives people a cheaper option if they're willing to give up a little in the detail department. Yeah, we realize that. And actually, we heard that a lot at Train Fest. Not everybody's going to buy Genesis locomotives every single time. Also, the Athearn locomotives, they're really good for doing your own detail work. In fact, that reminds me, DG Model Works. If you go over to his channel, he recently did a review of our GP40-2s in the Athearn line. And he's got two side-by-side comparisons, one out of the box and one that he detailed himself. So if you're willing to save some money, maybe challenge yourself with some more detailing, you can definitely do that with an Athearn model. And those AC 4400s are absolutely no exception. Now, those models are going to be delivered DCC ready. That means that we're not going to offer those with the economy. They're just going to be DCC ready. 21 pin, so you can put into the decoder of your choice. And this run, just to keep costs down, they do not have a factory speaker already installed. That's something we're going to leave to the modeler. We also know that there's a lot of other companies out there that are offering some spectacular speakers So this gives you a chance to set up the locomotive exactly the way you want. So glad you like that, Randall, and we're hoping that a lot more modelers also enjoy that. Let's see. Martin says, I have an older Athearn SD60 CSX, which works very well, but unfortunately I broke some body guards. Is there any way to buy replacement parts? Well, to be honest with you, depending on the age of that locomotive, it may be a little bit tougher. Now, we do have a parts service at Athearn. You can contact them through our website. Just go to athearn.com and then select the contact us, and you can definitely ask them. Now, if you've got the item number of the locomotive, that would be a huge help to our parts department. I will say, though, depending on how old that locomotive is, the chances are we just don't have it, because we would have to have a warehouse the size of the state of Illinois if we were to keep every spare part for every locomotive we ever made. Don't despair, though. You can also find places like Arnie's Trains in California has a lot of new old stock Athearn parts that you can purchase. And you can also find some stuff online, doing a quick search on one of the many online auction sites. So hopefully you find the part you're looking for your beloved engine. Let's see what else we've got. Terry is really in love with the Roundhouse F units. Yes, I'm really happy with the way those turned out. Randall saying he really likes the BNSF Heritage 4 scheme that we did. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go take a look at athearn.com under the new announcements. We did a Heritage 4, and it actually looks pretty good. It's pretty reasonable. It's a legendary liveries, so we know that there's two types of modelers, some that'll love it, some that'll hate it. But so far, a lot of people like it. Hey, Jim, I was wondering, do you guys think that down the road there might be a Genesis model of the new Norfolk Southern Heritage unit? Oh, yeah, that would be cool. I don't know. There's a possibility. Product development would have a better idea of what we would have as far as in the catalog to make that happen, but it's possible. It's definitely possible. Send us an email so that they know. Cyrus, any Surfliner updates? Yes, I do have an update for everybody with Surfliner and California cars. We apologize. It's been a very long wait. I found out, and my boss Mark found out at TrainFest, that decoders are finally getting assembled for those. As soon as those get assembled, we can resume production. There was a small snafu in the shipping supply chain, but those decoders are being built, I think, even as we speak. So be prepared. Be prepared. Look for announcements. If you pre-ordered these, I suggest you start saving your money, because I'm hoping we're going to see something in 2025. Let's see what else we've got. I'm going to do one, maybe two more questions, and then I'm going to let you guys get back to it. Let's see what else we've got. Just saw one for the SD70. Would you guys do a new run of the SD70 locomotives next? If you do, include SD70 Mac. Yes, that has been something that we have talked about. We're doing some work on those, but you may see something towards the end of 2025. I can't promise you that, but we know there's been a lot of requests for SD70s and SD70 Max. CA11 update, both HO and N-Scale. I know John, our product developer, was working on those today. So he doesn't have a delivery date for us, but it seems like everything is going to plan. So as soon as we have more updates, we'll let you know. Jeff wants to know, will the Norfolk Southern thank you railroads have sound and those from Athearn locomotives? So he is talking about, I believe, the AC 4400s under the Athearn line. No, they will not have sound. They will just be DCC ready. You can make them sound if you like. You'll need to buy a speaker and you'll need to buy a sound decoder of your choice with a 21 pin connector. But these are DCC ready. We wanted to put those out there, kind of make it a value based locomotive. I mean, let's be honest, a lot of us are part of a modular club and we want to have unit trains, and it's far more economical to build a unit train out of Athearn locomotives versus Genesis locomotives. So that's why we did that. Bruce, I'm going to end with Bruce's comment / question because it bears repeating. Jim, please get your website repaired and fixed so we can tell an approximate delivery date. We are trying desperately to get our web team to get that integrated. Now, in the past, I've talked about the software integration that we went through over a year ago. And for whatever reason, when the Horizon web team built the new Athearn website and the new software integration came into being, the two did not communicate well. It does not communicate well with the way that Athearn is set up. So we are desperately working to get that resolved. And I can tell you it's not going to be an easy process and it's not going to happen overnight, but we do realize that it's a problem. On my end, I'm trying to do as much as I can to let you guys know when things are coming into stock by updating you on social media as well as Train Tuesday. And if you haven't done so yet, go ahead and sign up for the Athearn newsletter. It's a weekly newsletter now, and I post items on there of when they're due for delivery and stuff that's coming into stock. So we're trying to help out, but do know that we heard that a lot at Train Fest, and we are doing our best to get that fixed up. So sorry about that, but we're going to try really hard to get that fixed for you guys. All right. Well, I'm so glad that you could join us tonight. Once again, you've got until Friday, December 27th to place your pre-orders on the SD60, all new, as well as the PC&F boxcars. So with that, I want everybody out there to be happy, be healthy, be safe, do some good modeling. Hopefully now that Thanksgiving's over, I can work on that a little bit. And until next time, everyone, hi green.